The house is a brick construction on a fieldstone foundation and was done in two parts. The original building comprises the front 4 rooms on 2 floors in a central passage style of architecture with English bond brickwork. An addition to the back of the house makes up another 4 rooms and 2 baths. This addition was constructed at an unknown time. However, the bricks, brickwork, and mortar in the addition are the same as the original part of the house. Like farmers, brickmakers worked hardest in spring, summer, and fall. During winter, they might dig clay, but cold months typically were quiet. During good spring, summer, and autumn weather, they molded bricks and fired them. Like bakers, brickmakers mixed their main ingredient, clay, with water until it had a dough-like consistency. They rolled the clay in sand and packed it in a wooden mold. They took the wet brick from the mold and put it on the ground to dry. Laborers turned them periodically to ensure uniform drying. Once dried to the touch, bricks were moved to a shed until it was time to fire them. The art of brickmaking lay in building and firing the kiln. Kilns were unfired bricks stacked oven-like with fire tunnels running through to distribute the heat. The fires burned constantly until the bricks hardened. The brickmaker watched the process closely, controlling the heat carefully. In the age before factory dials and gauges, this meant noticing the release of steam from the bricks and the changes in their color as they baked. 18th century bricks were made at the construction site, and colonial brickmakers lived an itinerant life, moving from project to project. Clients provided workers. Almost anybody, men, women, and children, could assist because brickmaking was unskilled labor. If brickmaking was for the untrained, bricklaying definitely was for the well-trained. Learned through an apprenticeship, bricklaying required physical endurance, an eye for keeping a brick wall straight, an aesthetic sense, and a practical knowledge of construction techniques. Some bricklayers had great skill and became de facto architects. Bricklayers didn't produce bricks, but they did make the mortar, also at the construction site, from a mix primarily of lime and sand. The lime was produced by burning oyster shells. By modern standards, colonial mortar was finicky. It dried slowly and couldn't be allowed to freeze in the winter or dry too quickly in the summer. Bricklayers often put wet tarps over unfinished walls to allow optimal, even drying in hot weather. Despite its temperamental nature, 18th century mortar proved durable once it hardened. As they built walls, bricklayers had to pay attention to the brick patterns known as bonds. 2 bonds dominated, English and Flemish. The English bond had alternating rows of brick laid end to end and then side to side. Flemish bond had short and long sides alternating in the same row. The Simpson home employs an English bond. Many bricklayers did plastering, too. Interior walls in colonial buildings, especially homes, were covered in plaster. Its ingredients included lime, sand, and a binder like animal hair. Plaster went directly onto bricks or wood. The smoothest appearance required carefully applied coats. Like mortar, plaster took a while to dry. Once it did, it could be painted, whitewashed, or covered with wallpaper. The floorboards in the front section of the house are original to the construction and are quarter sawn. Quarter sawing gets its name from the fact that the log is first quartered lengthwise, resulting in wedges with a right angle ending at approximately the center of the original log. Each quarter is then cut separately by tipping it up on its point and sawing boards successively along the axis. That results in boards with the annual rings mostly perpendicular to the faces. Quarter sawing yields boards with straight, striped grain lines, greater stability than flat sawn wood, and a distinctive ray and fleck figure. The original construction of the house was done in the central passage style. This style of house was built much like the earlier hall and parlor house, except that its hall and parlor were divided by a central passageway. In form, it was usually 1.5 storied, on a raised foundation, and had gable-end chimneys. Earlier examples were always 1 room deep and had a steeply pitched roof. This eventually gave way to 2 room deep types and a more gentle sloping roof, with dormer windows by the end of the 18th century. Also, the earliest examples displayed some asymmetry, but this was quickly superseded by a strictly symmetrical facade. It usually employed the double square formula, that is, the house was twice as long as it was high. Timber framed with weatherboarding and brick examples appear in equal numbers. Stylistic elements that were typical of the central passage were massive bookend chimneys with rectangular caps, flat or segmented arches over door and window openings, and a raised, often molded brick water table. When built with brick masonry load-bearing walls, the decorative detailing often included Flemish bond and English bond. Diagonal diamond patterns with darker brick were also common on gable ends.